before they started thinking about this land to be sold and separated out. It was marshy, swampy land, no forest here, no resource immediately to build or use or to sell, to make a beginnings of a farm, if you will. It was all about the commercial business that would be developed in the 1930s and beyond once this connection was made for the shipping and all the commerce. It wasn't long after that before the railroads followed, 1850s, and I'm going to show you a lot of railroads that are still working order, now computerized, that affect a lot of the architecture and what we have here. The bridge we are going under is the DuSable Bridge, Jean-Baptiste Point DuSable. He was from Haiti. He was the first non-native settler here in the 1770s. He had actually a fur trapping business right over here on our right-hand side, and he utilized the river. Just as in the future, a lot of industries, factories, and warehouses utilize the river. I want to remind folks not to try to reach up and touch the bridge as we go under. It's pretty yucky, not worth it. As we make our way past the bridge and we focus onto the left-hand side, you're going to get a nice close view of the bottom portion of that Alfred Ashler London Guarantee Accident Building. You see more Corinthian columns engaged at the entrance. And just before it, on the banisters and the railings, we get more influence of this ancient Greece ornamentation on the Wacker Drive here. So it wasn't just the buildings, it was a plan, the 1909 plan of Daniel Burnham and Edward Bennett, who was employing and trying to create a very cohesive look with this ornamentation way back from Greece and Rome. Off into the distance, up ahead, we got a building on the left-hand side with some scaffolding at the top. It's from 1926. It was the Jewelers Building, 35 East Wacker. Yaber and Finkelberg were the architects, and they're utilizing ornamentation for function. Those four little temples you see at the corners were once held water. It would have been utilized in case there was a fire and pull that water down through the force of gravity to put the fire out. But how beautiful to hold water tanks on the corners. Now, one of the tallest places you could go in 1926, once had a lounge up there where you could enjoy cocktails, and very popular still today, the idea of going up and experiencing the heights of these buildings. We go so much taller now in a contemporary buildings than modern buildings. Along the route here, along the left, we've got a new way to experience the river. It's called the River Walk, and the first portion was completed back in 2006, Carol Ross and Barney, and it's just beyond the next bridge. It's a Veterans Memorial, and then beyond it is just the completion of 3 new rooms that were just completed this year. You can be one of the first to experience the river as such and be down at the lower level. We got the Cove, the Marina, and the theater, and they'll have different beams, and this is a whole new idea of utilizing the river as such. Back up to the architecture up above, we got a gray building staying on the left with dark patches and little silver inserts. This is Kevin Roche and John Dingaloo design from 1989. Now here they're adding extra ornamentation. This is the time after all those mid-century modern buildings that were lacking in ornamentation dominated the scene. Here they're adding extra ornamentation about a third of the way up. You see the build-outs? They're right in line with their neighbors on either side. They're giving a nod to their 2 shorter neighbors with extra build-outs on its facade. That's another example of postmodern design. It's a very shiny, geared surface of Ricardo Bowfield's 77 West Wacker. It's got the indented corners, and it's got the triangular pieces at the very top. Now those triangular pieces are called pediments. Pediments, traditionally, back in ancient Greece and Rome, are right over doorways or windows, and they're made of stone or wood. Here we're having fun in a postmodern way with the ornamentation style, exaggerating the pediment, taking up the entire roof line, and making it into glass, a very reflective glass. This building's from 1992. Its neighbor, very shiny, glassy blue neighbor, just to the right of it, staying on the left-hand side, is 111 West Wacker. This is Gary Hendel and Hendel Associates. This is residences, actually, if you can believe it. First, a mention of all the buildings I mentioned thus far have been commercial business buildings. And here we've got a groovy groove in the facade of the building. That groovy groove is being contextual and specific for its location here on the river, and that it represents the river itself and the groove the river makes, like the groove of the city. Here we've got a groove through the facade of the building itself. Just being completed last year, this structure. Just next to that, on the left-hand side, we've got limestone building, 2 shorter towers. I see some scaffolding on one portion of it there, and then a tall tower pushed back. This building's from 1930, Halliburton Group. It's the LaSalle Wacker building, referring to the intersection, the avenues that it's located on. Now, it's got that taller tower in the back, answering the call for the city zoning in 1923 that stated if you're going to go taller than 22 stories, which those shorter towers are, you can only do so with the original quarter of the original lot space. What the city was worried about was dark, cavernous, unhealthy streets without sunlight and no air circulation. And it also helps out with the building itself. It helps with air circulation on those units up above. Remember, low wattage of electricity, of light bulbs, and no air conditioning.
Thanks for joining.
It's also our second example of an Art Deco building, a lot of verticality. Moving along, we got a chunkier, wider building. Do you see the ionic columns in at least 3/4 of it? On the left here, the Builders Building. It's influenced by the Beaux-Arts, that's Graham Emerson Thompson White, 1927, and then it gets an add-on. You see the modern add-on on the right end of it, and then the slanted glass roof at the top. This is added in 1986. And that's Skidmore, Owens & Merrill. They're saving the building. Instead of tearing it down and putting up something brand new, they're making the building much more financially feasible to get more rents with more square footage. A lot of the building material you see down below on these barges is preparing itself and getting ready for the future portion of the Riverwalk, which will extend its way all along here. They've got to pound caissons, footings down deep into the river and beyond below the riverbed itself, and down into the hard bedrock in order to get the foundation for the new walkway. Off in the distance, staying on the left, we have a building that has square build-outs on the corner, rounded circular portion, and a needle sticking out through the top. Here, Cole, Pedersen, and Fox are being contextual in a postmodern way, representing bridge houses up there. Now we're passing a lot of bridges with a lot of bridge houses. Here we've got representative bridge houses put architecturally in the ornamentation right at the corner, top corners of the building. You see the span of bridge that's actually connecting them way up there? And then there's a circle on a square base that's giving homage to the architecture and the ornamentation of Frank Lloyd Wright, who was very famous and did very well here in Chicago. He used that circle and square a lot. Ornamentation that only makes sense right here in Chicago on the riverbank, and that's why it's so contextual in a considered postmodern. Cole, Pedersen, and Fox are also responsible, the artisans and architects, for the next building in line. On the left, the glassy glass, the greenish two-tone glass building that curves. Here we got not only a reflection that's similar to the reflection on the water with all the ripples, but the whole curve and the shape of the building as it curves is right here where the river curves also. So being very specific in its material choice and its shape, fitting itself right here on the river. This building's from 1983, 333 West Wacker. The architects are also clever, and then they put the machines for the building on the lower level. Notice no glass windows on the lower level. Traditionally, you put this up at the roof line. Here, they're putting them down below. They were concerned about the noise of the city. We got the public transportation system, the bridge work there that you see that's yellow runs right alongside this building. So instead of having offices that would be distracted by that, they put the machines down below where you see the no windows there, the masonry material. Up ahead, right in front of us, we've got a building going up right before our eyes. It's going to be 50 stories, over 50 stories before it's complete. An office tower. It's Picard and Chilton. It's 444 West Lake Street, River Point, 444 West Lake Street. They've got a beautiful foundation with a lovely riverwalk right in front of it. Now, that's mandated now by the city. It has been since 1992. Any structure along the river here, along these waters, must have an open public space. And they've answered that call. It's done very beautifully. Notice the round ventilation portholes that you've got here. It's helping cool off the machines of the building underneath. There's also railroad tracks right beyond that from the 1850s. So they're squeezing the Riverwalk, their foundation, and their building amongst the working railroad tracks. Very appropriate, too, to have the round shape, just like the round shape of the portholes on the openings of the boats and the ships along the waters here. Another residence hall coming up now on the left that indents and curves and also squeezes itself with the public Riverwalk and the railroads beyond is Residences at Riverbend, the Stefano Partners, 2002. And here we get the lovely views up above, and then the parking below where you see the opaque windows and the masonry material. Too thin, this building, to even have ramps for the parking. You actually go in an elevator with your car and are lifted up to your parking spot because they didn't want to sacrifice that square footage to use a ramp. Just beyond it, we've got one of the oldest buildings getting a pretty repair job going on here with the brickworks. It's the Fulton House. Started its life out as a cold storage facility, very thick walls. made of brick masonry material. And then they used horsehair and cork insulation to keep it very frigid inside. It wasn't until 1981 Harry Weiss punches out all those squares and balconies to give folks a place to live. 1981, pretty early in the game of folks thinking about living on the river. Those stars you see are connected to steel rods that help reinforce the wall, and now currently it's getting replaced. A lot of the brick, if it's loosened up or moisture gets back behind there, needs to be replaced. The next place to live, actually 4 townhouses are right in line on the left here. Very unique shape. Same shape as the sails on the mast of the ships. This is Harry Weiss also. River Cottages, 1988. Very fitting in that they have the round porthole shapes. One has never been sold until just this week. One is going up for sale. It's a 3-bedroom, 5-level, actually 6 levels if you include the rooftop. You get 5 parking spots and then 2 more for boats down below. For a mere $2.3 million, you can reside in one of these 4 houses. First time it's ever come up for sale since 1988. That's Harry Weiss. Just beyond the bridge, up on the right-hand side, we've got huge, looks like a warehouse. It's not a warehouse, it's actually a pretty nice place to work out. It's called the East Bank Club. So 1979, Ezra B. Gordon and Jack Levin were the architects originally, and who never put windows facing out this way. They never thought people want to look out onto the, the Erie River, right? So it wasn't until the 80s when they expanded the space that they added the windows for folks to, on the treadmill or running around the track, that they want to be out looking out at nature out this way. So different than the attitude over here, back over on the left-hand side where we have Kinsey Park. We've got Papa George Haynes. This is a 2002. And not only do you get a lovely open space for the public, but you get a private little yard, you get a balcony, and you get a rooftop space. Hello, guys! And then all their identity is faced out this way. It's a whole change of attitude. The living on the river and having all this connection to what's going on this side of their structure. Increased density with the tower, Park Tower Residences on the left, 2002. A modern contemporary tower up here on the right, Sullivan Cornwall and Benz, 2008. Kingsbury Plaza, rounding out this end here of the building to get as much air and light, a lot of circulation up into those units to make them much more desirable. And it's a neat way to do that when you round out the proportions of the building. Further up, staying on the right-hand side, I see a red brick building. I see dark black steel hanging balconies. This is a clue that this building started its life out as something else and then was converted to residences. It's a neat way to give folks a little fresh air to put a barbecue or a chair and tables for a building that was once a warehouse or factory. Back in 1909, it started its life out. This is Riverbank Lofts, and then converted in 1995 by Fitzgerald Associates. Those are steel rods that then connect and hang support the balconies on it. When you see this sort of add-on to a masonry building, it's a pretty good clue that it's a conversion building. It started out as something else. Notice the Riverwalk hasn't made its way out this far yet. The public portion of it, the building uses the space though for their own purposes. They put in space for parking. Notice the little tweaking, the difference of the brickwork. Couldn't quite match up the brick from over 100 years ago. A lot of formulas to make brick, but they did their best with the post-match. I mentioned in my introduction buildings that are planned all at once, urban planning, where buildings are grouped together they're going to know who their neighbor is. Now listen to my dates. We're going to stay on the right-hand side. Just beyond the next bridge, the first structure is Park Place. It's from 2002, Sullivan, Cornwall, and Benz. It's South End Bookend, a park that's right in the middle. Aaron Montgomery Ward Park from 2003. And then around the perimeter, we've got some buildings. The first one I want you to focus on is one with the upside-down B's, or white B's. That's Lucian LaGrange, and that's 2002. And then its sister building, just to the right of it, is Erie on the Place, and then Kingsbury on the Place. And that's 2004. So we got a building here, 2002, another one from 2002, its sister building 2004, and the park from 2003. The building all the way at the end, the yellow masonry building, is River Place, 2 River Place condominiums, Papa George Haynes, and that's 2005 to 2006. And they're all surrounding this open space, this open park. sense of communing and bringing folks out and identifying again with this open space and the river. The one with the upside down V's is interesting in that that's an exoskeleton. The force, the technology that's holding up that portion of the building allows there for to be open floor plan within, beyond those V's. And those are highly sought after condominiums, places that people own to reside in. They like the idea of having that view through their window, connecting themselves up to the artistry, the technology of the building, the architecture of the building. The yellow color utilized here by Papa George Haynes on the building we're coming up on the left from 2005-2006 is giving its distinction, and it connects itself up with the accents you'll see in a little bit along the river. They learned this in Copenhagen, which has a lot of overcast days. We use a lot of color in their buildings, and so they decided to add color to their masonry work on these structures. Also residences. Off into the distance, those of you in the bow can look out to the right. You'll see a famous building way off on Michigan Avenue with white antennas. X marks the spot. It's the John Hancock building from 1969. Skidmore, Owens, and Merrill. We're just getting into view of it now. You guys can see where you are in perspective if you've made your way up to North Michigan Avenue of where we are right now. But fourth tallest building in Chicago, very famous building, but another exoskeleton where the structure of the building's on the exterior and keeping open floor plans within. Staying closer now on the left-hand side, we see another building, creamy white a brick building with some hanging balconies. A building from 1930. Louis McCulley was the in-house architect for the Montgomery Ward Catalog Company. This is the administrative building, and it gets converted to residences in 2000 by Fitzgerald Associates. Now here we're going to get a closer look at what Art Deco is about, because it's our next example of Art Deco. We've got build-outs that face out the facade on this end of the river that race all the way from the roof line all the way to the base. It's accentuating the verticality again. We've got windows that are squeezed longer and taller to give proportion, to make the building seem taller and longer and thinner. And that's that velocity or that movement. There's all that the lines that we have from all the transportation of the time. But now we're even closer and we can see these dark patches, these organics. This is influenced by the discoveries in Mesopotamia. It's new artistry to the world, at least newly discovered. And here it qualifies as an Art Deco building. They've excavated out interior space here, sacrificed to be part of the public riverwalk. You can stroll all along this way here with the structure. This is the administrative building. Staying on the right now, we've got the actual catalog warehouse, or what was the catalog warehouse, back from 1908. Richard E. Schmidt, Mark McCart. Now, they're doing something opposite here. They're long and low. A lot of horizontal emphasis with belt courses, red brick belt courses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 belt courses. This is what's called the prairie style of architecture, long and low. We're actually surrounded at one time by prairie, long, low horizons, very flat land, and here it's articulated and shown off in architecture itself. Huge square footage in here. The people hired to complete the catalog orders themselves.
Are you enjoying your tour?
Yes, we are. Watch where you're going. The pickers who were hired to complete the orders would have worn roller skates actually to zip up and down very quick along those aisles to get the orders complete so quickly. I think it sounds like fun for about an hour and a half. Until you get your blisters on your blisters. Another converted though, a lot of different office space in here. There's restaurants, there's retail space, health club. The first body of water you see on the right here is actually man-made from the 1850s. Ogden Brickworks wanted better access to their brick-making company, so they just dug into the river, and they made their own portion of the river. They reconnect on the other side to the main branch, the north branch of the river, but they leave an island in between. That's Goose Island, referring to the flocks of geese that the Irish immigrants would have had here, who resided here in the 1860s along these banks. On the north branch of the river, that's the next portion of body of water that comes down from us from the upper, neighborhoods, northwest side neighborhoods, and then all the way up into the suburbs. Little creeks and riverlets you could visit in the forest reserves that are all contributing to this body of water. I see some barges with some building material on it there. That's a Prairie Group's material yard. They're mixing concrete there, and it reminds us that the river is still utilized for industry and still making use of all those connections that I mentioned during my introduction, both to the east and to the west, to bring this building material in to get the concrete mixed out. Now, it's a little chilly for her. I'm not sure she's going to be out today. You guys look up onto the left-hand side there. Oh, there she is. She's up on one foot. She's wearing green today. She's pointing the way. There's progress, pointing the way for commerce. She's always up there. She's always, I don't know how she does it. I couldn't do it. I do yoga. I don't know how she holds up on that one foot that whole time. But she's on the one corner of the building from 1930. Now notice the trickery that's going on with our eyes between the cream-colored building with the balconies compared to the one that's next to us here, this low horizontal building. The accentuation of the verticality over the horizontal, the one with the balconies, is making that building look taller. It's trickiness. They're actually the same height and as the one here, this catalog company, the old catalog warehouse. And it's all that extra build-up that you have that is being dominant over the horizontal and the cream-colored one. Now, in the backdrop, behind our princess on one foot up there, we've got the replacement administrative building from 1974. Minoru Yamasaki, same architect who gave us the Twin Towers we lost in 9/11 in New York City, is giving a very egalitarian place in the 70s for a place to work at the Montgomery Ward Catalog Company, and that there's no special corner offices. Notice how everyone's pretty equal, very democratic. He's clever in that he's putting anything that cuts through the floor, the stairwells, the elevators, the plumbing, all on the corners of the structure to keep open floor plan within. And this works out very well for Papa George Haynes, the architect who converts us into residences now and has since 2004 to keep that open floor plan where you see the blue windows. As we make the bend right here, heading south now on the north branch of the river, you look over to the right-hand side, you see a red brick building that says Chicago Tribune. It's referring to our newspaper here. And this is the Freedom Center. This is the location where the newspaper is printed, not just the Tribune, but the rival newspaper, the Sun-Times. Anyone who sees the New York Times would be printed within these walls. 10 big printing presses rumble and shake and vibrate when they do in their action, when they're printing out all the newsprint. And the architects, Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill, in 1981, realized or thought how clever it would be to give them their own foundations, these printing presses, down deep into the bedrock so that vibration wouldn't be absorbed by the walls. Notice how clean and smooth the brick walls still are from the early 80s. They made the building very versatile in that they put these metal doors here on the facade facing out towards the water in case there'd be delivery of newsprint. Never utilized, never been opened or used and such, but still thinking of using the river that way for a building of this size. A lot of the transportation has been taken over already by the railroads and the trucking at this point. If you were looking for the most opportune time to visit downstairs, either those restrooms or grab something to drink, but you were afraid you were going to miss something, now's a good time. I'm going to talk a little about history. You'll still be able to hear me, but I'm not going to refer to anything along the embankment for just a little bit. I'm going to talk about Montgomery Ward because we had some buildings, administrative buildings, and a catalog warehouse and a park dedicated in his name. He starts his career out in 1865. He's a door-to-door salesman. He's bringing folks ideas and the things, the goods, that who couldn't necessarily make the journey into the city center to see what was available, spend the time or the expense. But he's super smart about it and how he cuts the legwork out of it. And he sends out a one-page pamphlet with descriptions, perhaps illustrations, of course the price of the good. And lo and behold, they figured out how to send their payment in, utilizing the Postal Service, and have the good, if not delivered right to their front door, at least to their hometown. It was the first catalog company, mail-in catalog service, offered anywhere, and it was developed right here in Chicago on these waterways, utilizing the transportation of both the water and the railroads. Now this grew very quickly to 1.5-inch wish book by the 1890s, and he developed the another building over on Michigan Avenue, too far for us to see right now, but it still stands. It's been converted to residences, but it's right across where Millennium Park is right now. But Millennium Park wasn't there. It was landfill. It was kind of nasty. People were dumping whatever they wanted in that space, and it hadn't been developed. There were a lot of contemporaries, a lot of businessmen of Montgomery Ward who were kind of scheming with the city, saying, we'll clean this all up for you if you let us put a building or two out here. And it was Montgomery Ward, actually, who spent his own time and energy and money to go to the courts 4 times, all the way to 1911, to the Illinois State Supreme Court, which was the final decree that stated that land should always be open and free for all to use. And that's what we highly celebrate now, Millennium Park, Grant Park, and Museum Campus. He knew the importance not only for the citizens of Chicago to enjoy this space, for people to visit would enjoy it, but the buildings themselves and the look of the city needed some open space for the look along that avenue. And that's the idea we're currently coming up with now in more modern times with the river itself, using the river as an amenity. I just showed you the park, honored in his name. We talked about the river walk. We see a lot of folks now residing on the river, which used to be dedicated to industry and warehouses. But that wasn't always the case. The river was highly abused historically. We had a lot of vessels on the river that polluted the river. We had all the tanneries and the lumber companies and the stockyards. Anything they didn't want, they threw into the river. It was an easy way to get rid of your garbage, your refuse. And the river flowed out into Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan then, just like today, is the source of our clean drinking water. The city was like, we better figure out something to do to preserve our clean drinking water. We're putting all this pollution out where the source of it is taken in. And so what they do is they come up with the Sanitary District of Chicago, a municipal organization back in 1889. Which involves a huge engineering project that takes 11 years to complete. What they do is they dig a huge canal all the way in front of us down south here. We don't go that far. But when they open the floodgates in 1900, through the force of gravity, it reverses the flow of the river. It pulls water in from that point forward from Lake Michigan down the south branch of the river, flushes everything out the other way. You think St. Louis would be the first to complain? It was actually the surrounding states, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, who saw the level of the water going down too much out in Lake Michigan. It was working too well. And so they've had to put in a lock in 1938.